Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. So, I have a little potential update on one Cabal that I was talking about earlier in the season. For those of you that don't know, there was potentially at least one final survivor of the Skyburners Legion alive on the Dreadnought 10 years later. His name was Olgun. The evidence for this was found in the Psychopomp lore tab, which I discussed in a previous video that you can find linked down below in the description. We didn't get any confirmation of their fate within the lore of Psychopomp, which left things as a somewhat open-ended question. Now, however, we might have an update which gives us reason to hope and a bit of reason to doubt. There's more context around this mystery, and for some it might be fair to say that we have an interpretation of an answer of what happened to Olgun. It's hard to know for sure, but unfortunately I think he might be gone. So in Psychopomp, we learned about how the final member of the Skyburners Legion that was left alive on the Dreadnought was called Olgun. I won't go over the full story of theirs from the lore tab as we did it last time, and again, the other video is there if you want to catch the further context. What I will remind you of is that having seen his commanding officers, the Scions and his fellow soldiers of the line perish, Olgun was the only Skyburner to remain, but he was still intent on doing his duty. His armor might have been stinking and slick with hive detritus, but he was left with little choice but to continue the fight. He would crawl through tunnels and plant explosives to work to upset the hive's plans at every turn. But I'll be honest, it doesn't look like there were many good odds for him in the first place. First of all, I mean, he was a survivor for 10 years, if we're to believe that he was still alive. And then also, there were an abundance of Skyburner corpses just all over the Dreadnought. And of course, we hadn't seen any signs of any living Skyburners. So at the time, it looked as though that was it. But then Act 3 came along. This act has mostly been a lot of good dramatic stuff with the Hive Guards, but in the process, we found our way back to the hull breach that was created long ago by the Skyburners' command vessel, known as the Dantalian Exodus 6. This is the vessel that they, well, rammed into the Dreadnought in order to actually get inside and try and destroy the Taken King for themselves. Spoiler alert, it didn't go well. In the process of exploring the hull breach area, we can actually find an update to all of this and maybe some answers about what happened to our final Skyburner. Sometimes, when you arrive in the hull breach area of the Nether, you can find Toland hanging out. I say Toland, it's one of the sparking balls of Taken energy. We don't know if this is always explicitly Toland, although the sheer amount of them that gather when you're in the Founts tells me that it's probably just an entity from within the Ascendant Plane that is watching. Sometimes this ball of energy will lead you to a chest as usual, and if that's the case, then yeah, that's probably Toland. However, sometimes you can find it hanging out on the far side of the map from where you enter the hull breach. There you'll find that ball of energy next to what is unmistakably a series of Cabal supply crates and a green and white banner, a banner that belongs to the Skyburners Legion. A few notes to be made are that the supplies are not like the others that you find around the rest of the Dreadnought. Whilst they do have some chitin and detritus over them, for the most part they're actually pretty clean. They've not been completely sunken into the Dreadnought itself, they're not completely covered in gunk, they're almost pristine in some cases. The most pristine part of all of it is the flag itself, which looks as though it is a little dirty, but is untouched other than that. That's kind of remarkable because you'd expect a cloth banner to be worn and torn and broken apart and, well, just not in good shape and not even showing its color. But it looks as though it's had a lot of care put into it and a lot of care has been taken. It looks as though it has been untouched by the ravages of the hive, which implies again that someone has been taking care of these supplies. That's not the only intriguing detail though. In the lore of Psychopomp, you can see that Olgun's major means of striking back against the hive was using explosives. Typical Cabal explosives are rectangular in shape and, well, take a look. Yep, the supplies include explosive charges. This is all a major hint to the idea that Olgun might still be alive. The flag is pristine, the explosives are here, it's all been laid out near the Dantalian Exeter 6 where Olgun likely grabbed the supplies from in the first place. If you go underneath all of this and head to a nearby hive corridor, you can even see an area that's been blocked off by a Cabal shield barrier, implying that even in the deepest parts of the Dreadnought, there was someone or something still holding on. This all presents a really hopeful notion, but it's not the full picture. Remember the Taken energy, the Toland ball that leads you there? Well, if you interact with it by the Skyburner's flag, it will spawn a specific dire Taken Cabal enemy called the Skyburner's Grudge. Killing this dire Taken will then drop the Legion key that opens up this area behind the shield. All of this is required in order to access various other secrets as well as a catalyst for the Barrow Dyad, but it unfortunately tells us some potential stories about what's happened here. Unfortunately, those stories don't seem to point to the idea that Olgun is amongst the living. In fact, I think it's entirely possible that the Taken Cabal that you do actually fight in this secret little interaction is Olgun. I say that based off of the fact that he's not just a Taken that's hanging out near a flag, he's one of the new dire Taken. If this Cabal is related to all this quest content, then it's a Cabal that has been taken recently, hence why it's a dire Taken and it's got all the new tentacles and whatnot. It's rather remarkable to see one that is named Skyburner's Grudge and is also amongst those newer Taken numbers. That is unusual all in itself. If that is the case, and it is both a Skyburner and a member of the dire Taken that was taken recently, then this might be Olgun, and his final fate might be as just another formless member of the Horde that is gathering under the Taken's new master. It makes it even more tragic too, because that means he was successful and survived for a decade just to fall at the last hurdle before he could be recovered by Coalition forces. It means we missed him by nothing short of a whisker in the grand scheme of things. If we'd just been weeks, days, or maybe even hours faster, Olgun might still be alive. All this is even more clear to confirm because, well, the Skyburner's Grudge had the Legion keys for the shielded area that was set up below. Now, whilst it's not impossible that this is just a remnant of another Cabal that's been taken, all the evidence points to a single unfortunate outcome, which is that we only just missed the chance to save the last of the Skyburners. If so, pay a few momentary respects to Olgun. I don't know if we can collect his obol, but if we can, out of respect for his long, thankless, and pretty hopeless campaign, we should do so with the intention of returning it to Keitel. In a certain sense, this is a massive blow to her war effort. She could have used a soldier like Olgun based on his intelligence gathering alone. His experience is invaluable. He would have been an excellent advisor or field commander for the forces of the Coalition and the Ascendancy as they push to retake Torobatl. But now, that option and all the intelligence that Olgun gathered is likely lost. The good news is that this isn't Keitel's only option. The Coalition has an overwhelming number of fighters that have both broken and been broken by the Hive. She has us. She has Eris, and directly at her side, she has Saladin. This entire story has really been a backdrop to a bigger one, a story about Keitel's arduous war of attrition. Whilst the singular story of it displays the tale on a micro level, the bigger picture is one that Keitel has been focused on this whole time. It's pretty adequately displayed in the lore of the new class items from Heresy in the Apostate's Blade set, which we've just got access to this act. It shows Keitel's process of planning. The lore from it reads as follows. The mathematics of war was ever written in blood. Keitel measures the distance to Torobatl not in light years, but in lives. Not in star systems, but in the ships that would need to be shored up. The legions reconditioned to the pitch depths of space. It is not a matter of if it can be done, but rather when. How long to wait for human allies? piling rubble up into fortifications. How long to stamp out the dregs of exiled legions in Sol? Here, Valis Forge has brought her a set of records from the Vanguard. They unfold in sequences of recorded violence, blurry, difficult to pass chitin from armor, and a scrolling list of numbers, a death toll that spikes precipitously. No one likes to speak of it, but the intel's valuable. The Great Disaster. When the Vanguard sought to retake Luna from the Hive. Keitel knows the story of it, if not the visceral truth. Has heard it murmured, rumors passed from one to another. But Crota is dead, as is Oryx, and Xivu Arath is severed from her throne. Even a lightless guardian is still a threat. Valis Forge does not name names. He does not have to. Keitel is well familiar with Osiris, with Eris Morn, who brought the Hive Gods under her heel. Xivu Arath has no refuge, yet it does not mean she is dulled. As any with but one life, they will fight to the death, with all that they have and more. Keitel nods with grave intention. She reviews the records, she changes her variables, and she does the math again. Keitel's long war doesn't end here. By some measures, it hasn't even started. The battle lines are still being drawn up. The Cabal have been forced onto the back foot and have lost their homeworld of Torobatl. But their war hasn't technically begun yet. When it does begin in earnest, I fear that Olgern won't be the last Cabal warrior to fight a long and grueling campaign to a potentially bitter end. But who knows? There is still just a little bit of hope. After all, we haven't actually seen a Cabal named Olgern. There is the slimmest, slightest trickle of hope. But I'm not holding on to it. All that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like, and leave your thoughts down below in the comments section. In particular, do you think Olgern lives, or do you think he's gone? If you want more lore from universes near and far, go ahead and hit subscribe, and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Rhodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.